All right, today we're going to look at another entity that has limited use but is extremely powerful within the game. And this is the point client command. And what this entity does is it allows you to issue console commands within the game. So if you remember what a console command is, those are normally the developer commands that we can use to do things like turn on God mode, um, wireframe. There's a lot of developer type things that we can do with it. And this point client command, this entity here, allows us to issue those commands from within the game without making the player open up the console and type in a command. So we could, for example, give them infinite suit power. Um, we can end the game. That was a question somebody asked me. How do we end the game? So there's a way using this entity to end the game and send you back to the menu. So in today's lesson, we're going to set up a fader that fades out and sends you back to the menu. Obviously you would probably put some text on the screen to let the player know that they beat the game. You don't want to just dump out to the menu because they'll probably think the game crashed. So when we're kind of setting up the end of the game, you're going to want to, create something that lets the player know that, they've reached the end. Some game text, or, they open the doorway out of the level, and then you fade to black or fade to white or something like that, and then you end the game. And then also, I'll show you just a list of console commands. You can look through them, and there are some pretty useful ones in there. So first, let's look at the entity here. So you would use your entity tool, come over here, type in point client command. It's this little box thing. You can put it anywhere you want. It doesn't really matter. I've got mine set up so that I walk through this trigger and it's going to fire this right here. So let's look at the trigger, because the point client commands don't have any specific inputs. Their inputs are user 1, user 2, user 3. They don't have a, like on open or on trigger or anything like that, because it just fires a console command. So let's take a look at my trigger. So I made a trigger box. This is the end of the game. The player's going to walk through here. And it's pretty simple. I'm going to run a fader, which we've done before, the ENV fader. And then this is the other one, on trigger, end game. That's my point client command. And you'll see that the what I do to it here is fire user 1. Okay? And that just means it's user 1, that it's the user's number 1 command, and it has user 2, user 3, because the point client command doesn't have anything that it does. It just sits there and listens for you to talk to it. So fire user 1. Now if we go back to the client command, this guy right here, on his outputs, it says on user 1, the target entity is endgame, which is itself. If you look at it, I named it endgame. So on user 1, it's going to tell itself to do a command. Okay, and so you see there's not even a whole lot that this thing can do here. Command is one of them. Fire user 1, 2, 3, 4, which could fire to another entity, I suppose. And then kill, of course, is going to get rid of it. So there's not a whole lot that this thing does. So, but when we say command, what that does is it opens up this fourth box. And this fourth box is where you can type in any console command. Like, for example, the command quit. Quits the entire game, like shuts down Half-Life 2. So if you put quit in this box right here, when you walk through this trigger, it would quit the entire game, crash out to the desktop. Now, what we've got here is this is a command that forces the game back to the main menu. And it is startup menu, and then there's a space, okay? That's unusual for us, but there's a space right there, and then the word force, okay? So startup menu, all one word, space, and then the word force. All right? So let's see what that looks like in game. right, so I know there's a trigger in front of me here. When I walk forward, you can see the fader started, has a 5-second delay, and then after 5 seconds, it kicks me back out to the menu. So game's over, but it didn't dump the game out to the Windows desktop, it quits back to the main menu. All right, so point client command. You could use anything to do this. You could have a door that opens, and the door could have an output on open, and then it could fire to the client command. You could have anything that can fire an output can do this right here. This could be on open, on trigger, on death. I mean, it could be anything. You could have one NPC that you have to kill, and on that NPC, it could say on death, and then it could fire user 1 on the end game, and that would end the game. You could have an NPC that you have to protect. So you're protecting an NPC, and if that NPC dies, you could have an on death that ends the game. It's just anything that could fire an output can talk to this. And then this one's really simple. It's just on user 1, it talks to itself. We issue a command, and then you type in the command here. Now, where do you get these commands from? If you go to the internet and you type in source engine console commands, you'll get this website. Should be the first link. It'll be the console command list from the Valve developer community. And I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of these console commands. Most of them are for like developer stuff when they're trying to troubleshoot things and figure out what's going on. It allows them to see connections, see how things are working, check performance, and that kind of stuff. There is a few that are interesting, like for example, SV underscore cheats. If we scroll down here, this one, SV underscore cheats. That's how you enable cheats in the game. And some of these console commands require the cheats to be enabled to work. That's what this column is for. So if you see the word yes in this column, that means the cheats, SV cheats, has to be enabled for this cheat code to be implemented. So what we would do is if, say, we wanted to give infinite suit power, right? Because the suit has limited power. I think, what is it, the HEV suit that Gordon wears? So if we wanted to do that, we would have a console command that would say, on user 1, SV underscore cheats space, and then 1. Okay, so it would be SV underscore cheats space 1. Okay, 1 means on. Then you would have another output, maybe with a 0.01 delay, that says SV underscore infinite underscore aux underscore power, and that is going to give you infinite suit power. This one here, we can adjust the gravity in the world. I've seen some students do some pretty interesting things with this one right here. And you'll notice this one does not require the cheat code to be enabled. So you could have a point client command that when the player, turns on some crazy piece of machinery, it could turn off gravity in the world. And SV underscore gravity, and then you put the value of the gravity, and you see the default here is 600. So if you look through this list, like these blue ones I've noticed tend to be Half-Life 2. And you can kind of scroll through here. There's ways to give the player stuff. There's a give command, and then you put in the name of the entity, and it gives it. You can create entities out of thin air. So you can look through this list. If you Google something like, Half-Life 2 console commands, and you'll find things. Now, I don't know if some of these are probably blocked here at school, but if you look through here, these are some of the more common console commands that you're going to use in Half-Life. Like I said, a lot of the developer console commands are used for development of the game. They're going to check things like, AI pathfinding and things like that. However, like this one, for example, no target. If you enable no target, the enemies won't target you. They won't try to shoot you. So this one, if you wanted Gordon to walk through an area and have them ignore you, you could put in SV_cheats space 1, and then you could put a second console command, no target, and then the enemies will ignore you. Impulse 101, this one's very popular. It gives you every single item in the game, all the weapons anyway, with full ammunition for each one. So a lot of stuff. Here's how to give all the different weapons, items, etc. All right, so main thing though, how to quit for your end game, so you can start considering that. It is this command right here, startup menu space force. This will send you back to the menu. Make sure you set it up in a way that it doesn't just abruptly rip the player out of the game. Let them know that they've reached the end of the game through text or a doorway or a fader or something. I would recommend not having just an abrupt game quits to the menu, because people are going to think your game crashed. So you want to give them some indication that that's the end of the game. All right? Excellent.